Okay, I want to update everybody on the poetry anthology. Given the uncertainty of when we're going to return to school, if we're going to return to school, I've gone ahead and made the executive decision to make this a digital assignment. With that in mind, we're going to be using the app, the website Canva. This adds a lot of opportunities for us to be creative. It gives us a lot of things that we can use, and it makes it really easy to share. Which is very important because I need to be able to see this. So with that in mind, we're going to use Canva. Now, Canva is an app that many of you are familiar with on your iPad. I'm going to strongly recommend that you use the actual website. The website gives you a lot more to use and a lot more special features and things that you can include that really makes the scrapbook what we want it to be. So with that in mind, use a MacBook or use a laptop. You still probably can use the iPad. I just don't know if you have the same features and maybe the same ease in which to do this. So keep that in mind as you start this assignment. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and jump onto the Canva website. Okay, so quick Google search for Canva, found canva.com. When you get to the website, you're going to have to create an account. I used my Notre Dame login up here at the top to do that. You can see here's my name, right? So obviously this is going to be the button right here that's going to be really important. But what I want to show you is actually I want to show you an example of this. I've actually started my own poetry anthology, which has actually been a lot of fun and it's been really cool to do. So this is what we're going to ultimately end up with. Okay, so let me kind of show you how I've done this. I've kind of started with the parts that you need for the poetry anthology, beginning with the cover page. So what you'll see on my cover page obviously is a picture. You must have a picture on your cover page. You're also going to see then the title, She Sang Beyond the Beauty of the Sea, which is a very famous line from one of my favorite poems. I've got my name, I've got my class, I've got my period, and I've also got the day that this assignment is due. Next page, this is the order that your poetry anthology should go in, is my dedication. Again, I'll give you some time to read through that after I share this with all of you. But you can see again that you have your dedication page next. Okay. Then you have your table of contents. You must have a table of contents. You can see what I've done here is I have my collected poems. I only did 3 for this example. So you can see that the 3 poems I collected are Tea for Two, Sun Rising, and Hand Shadows. And then I've listed what page they're on over here. Okay, you're going to have 2 sections for this poetry anthology. You're going to have collected poems and you're going to have poems that you wrote. Whichever poems you want to include first, whichever section you want to have first is up to you. I chose to do collected poems. After I'm done with my collected poems, and obviously I'm going to have my written poem section as well. But you can go in whatever order you want to go in. Okay, so let's look at the pages for the individual poems. Okay, so right away, my first poem that I'm including is Tea for Two. This was written by Pamela August Russell. The poem is on the right-hand side. It wasn't until I poured the second cup of tea that I realized I was alone. Okay, I also then at the very top, you can see, have the title of the poem. So the order needs to go title, poem, author. The author for the poetry anthology should always be after the poem. Okay, so I have my title, I have the poem here, I have my literary analysis down here, again, 5 to 10 sentences in length with examples and direct quotes. And then here is the image that I decided to include for this page. Bottom right-hand corner here is the page number. Make sure you do number the pages of your poetry anthology. Here is my second poem, Sun Rising by John Donne. I actually found a picture of the poem online. I used that instead of typing it out or copying and pasting it. So here's my title, poem, author. Here's my picture. Here is my literary analysis. Okay. The last one that I did for this example is called Hand Shadows by Mary Cornish. This is one of my favorite poems. Again, I have the title, I have the poem, I have the author, and I actually included 2 pictures on this one just to make sure I don't have any dead space or any unused space. Here's my literary analysis. So for the example, just so you know, I actually found this one online. I copied and pasted it for time. Obviously, we do not want you doing that. You're doing your own literary analysis, so please no plagiarism. I just want to make sure that you do look at that and you do see that. Okay, so this is what we're ultimately going to end up with. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to kind of go through and show you how we create a page. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the home. And what I'm going to first do is once I get my my profile set up, I'm going to go here then to where it says create a design. When I do that, it's going to give me a search bar. So I actually searched right off the bat as I searched scrapbook. And what you see then right here is a selection. So I selected that, and then it took me straight to this page, which is a scrapbook format. Okay, lots of cool stuff going on here. Okay, so first of all, just draw your attention to this. Here's a little toolbar. You can add notes to yourself or to your reader. You can copy a page, and then this is going to be really important when we look at this because we're going to add a page here. Okay, I'm actually going to go back and jump into my designs, all right, and go back into my poetry anthology that I already started. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to my last page here. Hopefully, there it is. Okay, you can see I started this one. I'm actually going to go ahead and delete this page, and then I'm going to go right here where it says for my hand shadows, and I'm going to select a new page. Now you can see that this is the background that I used for my previous page. So obviously I'm going to try and change that in just a little bit. Okay, up here again, you can copy it, you can delete it, and this is where you're going to add it. Over here, lots of fun features. This is what makes Canva great. So you can search templates. So if I wanted to use this, let's say, I could click on that, and then this is how I could help lay things out, and I'll show you how you can change things and move things around. Photos. You can select photos to use. So if I wanted to use this photo, I could click that, and now that photo is being used. Okay? I don't want to use that, so I'm going to delete it, but you can see how that might work. Elements here, so clip art and things like that. Really cool stuff, so I could put this on there. I could use that somewhere. All right? I could, celebrate if I wanted to. Could use that. That'd be cool. All right. Just be careful with the photos and the elements that you have to pay for some of them. So just watch out for that. Okay. Here's how you add text. I used add heading. I've also used some of these, like this one right here, for example, right, where I could put the title and then the rest of the poem in there. So that's something to look at. You could add music and video to this if you'd really like. We're not going to ask you to do that. And this is how you change the background. You can search the background too. So if you're looking for a background with, let's say, shadows in it, because that's what your poem's about, you could select that, and then all of a sudden, boom, you can change it, and then now you see the background and the way the background looks. My layout still is there, my template is still there, but now my background has changed. So I'm not a huge fan of that background, and I'm actually not a huge fan of any of this. So I'm going to delete this, and just by kind of selecting it, well, maybe not, selecting it and deleting it, you can see how I can do that, right? I can delete really a lot of this stuff and just get rid of it because I don't want to use it. So that's just kind of how this works. And again, you can see deleting things is pretty easy. It's just a quick little selection. You got your circles there, and then you just delete. Okay, so I'm working with a blank slate then obviously right here. When you look at this, I'm looking at a blank slate. So now I can start to really start considering my background and what I want to use. Okay, so I'm going to go back to backgrounds here. I'm going to use a background instead, and I'm just going to randomly select this background right here, right? And now what happens is I've got everything I need to start. Okay, you can mess around with the effects here. Some really cool effects. Check them out. This one here, if you look at this color mix, I can change it, right? So now it looks even different. So I'm going to go with that. You can filter it. So now it looks like even, just a little bit different. I can play around with the sharpness of it and whatnot as well. So I'm going to kind of leave it look like that. Okay. The next thing obviously I'm going to do then is I'm going to insert some text. So here's a really easy way to do this. So I'm looking at something like this where it's got a bigger font and then a smaller font. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to drag that over here because this is where I'm going to put my poem. Okay. My poem that I'm going to use is just again as an example is hand shadows. I want it to run the whole length of my top, right? So I'm going to make that obviously a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to start with the text right here. So I copied and pasted this already from Poetry 180. Here's the actual poem itself. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. When I do use Canva, I got to use Control V to paste, and then this is where it gets a little bit tedious because you got to kind of play around with things, but obviously I want it to look exactly like the original. So I'm going to have to make this a little bit wider, okay? And then I'm obviously going to need to make this a little bit smaller in order for things to fit on the actual page. So I'm just going to kind of pull this down, and then you can see now what it looks like. I can make it bigger, right? I can make it smaller. Make sure that the author is always the last thing that we see. So the order of every poem on the page should go title, poem, author. Okay, does that make sense? So again, you can see how this works. Now, I could also, if I wanted to, change it and make sure that it goes I'm not really liking it, so I want it to go all left. I can play around with the size. So for me, it's a little big, so I can change the size of it. And I'm not thrilled with the color, so I'm going to change the color to an all white. That just makes, I think, makes it overall just seem a little bit easier to look at. I'm deleting the title right there in case you're wondering what I'm doing. Okay, I can always go back, and I can always make this bigger, right, by dragging it. Okay, but I'm going to leave it right there. That's a good size. All right, now I need to decide where do I want to put my picture, because I need a picture for this, and then where am I going to put my literary analysis. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to where it says uploads. All right, now I have already decided earlier on what kind of a picture I wanted to use here. So I went on to the internet, I found some pictures that I wanted to use, I saved them, and then I went here and I uploaded them. Okay, so again, here's a couple of my downloads. So again, I went here, and now you can see that picture is available for me to use. So I'm going to click on that, and then you'll see that it pops up. Did it twice actually. All right, now I need to decide where I'm going to put it. So I'm actually going to put this picture right here. Okay, and then this is really cool. I love this part of it. Now I can crop it. So I don't want all of that in there. So I can take this and I can crop it, make it a little bit smaller. I want to bring it a little bit tighter into the actual hand shadow. All right, and then when I'm done, I click done up here, and now the picture's changed. And now I can move it around. I can make it a little bit bigger, right, so that it fills the page and I don't have any of that dead space. All right, so that's how I'm doing my picture. Okay, to do then my poetic analysis, again, you go here. I would suggest for this part that you just use something as simple as a little bit of body text. All right, and then again, recommendation here is that you've written your poetry analysis on a Google Doc. Maybe you've reviewed it so that there's no spelling mistakes, no errors. Maybe send it to me to proofread, and then you can copy and paste it into here. So I'm going to just kind of show you how I did this. Again, this is the one I found from the internet. If you look here, it tries to copy it. I can't do that, but I can do Control. I believe it's P or C, right? And that should copy it for me. So give me a second, make sure that works. Okay, so I've copied what I want to add to my body text here. So again, I select the text box, and then I'm going to hit Control V. That's my keyboard shortcut to paste. So obviously you can see when I do that, what I have copied is here. This gets a little bit tedious, right? I'm not going to lie to you. This gets a little bit tedious, but again, what you can do is you can select it, make things a little bit smaller, drag it around until you get the right size so that it fits on the page. Again, don't be afraid to make it a little bit wider so that more of it fits, and just continue to play around with the size. Now, what I've noticed right away is that this isn't going to work probably, so I'm going to switch around my design just a little bit. I'm going to take the analysis, move it up here, make it a little bit skinnier so that it fits where I want it to, right? And just really playing around with design, because also a part of this assignment, as you all know, is that you do have a very solid graphic design layout as well. So once you kind of get it where you want it to, then the next step is to, play around with its font, play around with the size, right? Again, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so it fits how I want it to. Just kind of pull this around, right? Make it a little bit smaller to eat up some of that dead space. Then I'm going to come back here. I want it to be aligned left, right? I also don't like the color, so I'm going to change the color. I'm going to go all black here, because obviously this is actually, you know what? Let's go with maybe a different color, like a white, and see how that looks. Again, you'll see it looks a lot better when you get into the full view. Maybe even do like a red, or you could do a purple. Black, you could also bold it, so if it's really not sticking out for you, you could bold it. I know it's hard to see, but you'll look at it. And you could also make it a little bit bigger. So what I have here then is the first start of my page. Again, I'm still missing things like page number, so again, that could just be a quick little put page 4 in there, and then you can just drag it to where you needed to go, and it's